Hey everyone, Trevor with HustlePaintball.com here, and we have a video for you on installing the E-Grip kit on the Project Salvo. It's really close to installing it on the Alpha Black. You in fact use the Alpha Black electronic trigger upgrade kit. So let's bring it in close and I'll show you how to install it. As with any disassembly, you want to start by removing the barrel. And then with the salvo, you want to remove this receiver screw. And the shroud with it. You also want to remove the magazine. And then we're just going to start slowly removing the receiver screws and taking apart the body halves. We're removing the last receiver screw. Now before I take apart the two receiver halves, there is this little rubber knob on top of the cocking handle right there. You do want to remove that, otherwise the two halves are not going to come apart and you're going to wonder why. You need to be very careful pulling this marker apart. Many different parts like to go everywhere when you do. It's really quite aggravating. Especially you want to hold on to that stock so it doesn't fly off from the mainspring, and just be very careful. So I got this receiver half removed and I removed the stock. Now as you can see here, the sear and a lot of different things got displaced, which is okay because that's a lot of things that we're going to be replacing with this kit. Just need to make sure you keep watch of everything going on in the paintball gun so nothing gets misplaced. So now that we got the two receiver halves pulled apart, what I really want to show you is what we're going to be doing with the one that we pulled off right here. So this is the left receiver half here. Now what we're going to be doing is, see this area right here, we're going to be punching it out. But the first thing we want to do is actually remove the grip portion so we don't ruin anything and we can actually get that punch portion removed. So you just want to grab your Allen wrench and remove these screws. Pay close attention to where you put things when you remove them. You don't want to be losing any of these parts. So now that we got that removed, you can see there's already a hole here. That's where the solenoid's going to be going. But we have to punch out this area right here for the battery. So let's turn it around. You can see a nice cutout right here for it. You want to use a punch kind of like this one. You want to put it right by the edge. I like to use this corner right here. Grab your hammer and just give it one good smack. And you want to do it in all the corners where it's cut out there. And there we go, it's cut out and removed. It's nice and clean. You definitely want to be careful with that. Make sure that you're placing it in the right place. If you punch the wrong area, you may end up having to get a completely new receiver half. The next thing we're going to be going into is your Alpha Black E-Grip kit. Now, as I stated before, you do want to use the Alpha Black E-Grip kit with any U.S. Army marker. That includes your Project Salvo. If you go out and use a 98 E-Grip kit, it's not going to work, so make sure you pick up the U.S. Army version. So let's go inside here and open it up. And as you can see here, we do have your circuit board with the capacitor, solenoid, micro switch, and battery connector. And then also what's included is you have a new sear spring, magnet, and then you have two armature pins. With your Project Salvo, you want to be using the longer one. The shorter armature pin is actually for the Carver 1 or Tango 1. As I showed you, you did get a new sear and sear spring. So that's the first thing you want to do is you want to remove the old sear, and the spring was actually removed when we took apart the two receiver halves, and put in the new sear. Make sure it's that black pin that you use for the sear. That's the only one that is used. And then your new sear spring. And you have your new sear installed. The next thing we want to do is install the circuit board, solenoid, capacitor, and battery connector. You want to make sure that it is oriented like this. The power button is going to be facing right there where you can get it with an Allen wrench. You place the capacitor right there. Make sure your solenoid has all the parts to it. And it's facing like that in there. The magnet that you received in the kit, you want to put, it doesn't matter which way it is oriented, but you do want to put it right there so it catches onto the solenoid like that. And you do want to keep those green pieces that are on the magnet on there. It keeps the magnet and the metal from the solenoid touching each other, especially when it's moving fast. That can scratch it up and it can ruin both pieces. As far as the micro switch, you want to make sure it is oriented like this, where the part that comes out is going upwards. Otherwise, it's not going to react with the trigger correctly. There are two little pins there popping up you want to line it up with, and then push it in. And then the armature pin, like I said, you want the longer one. Just going to take it and make sure it goes in like that. Have your battery stuffed in right there. Now this is now that we have everything in like this, we do want to start putting everything back together. In doing so, I need to put the trigger back in the marker. When you install an e-grip kit on your U.S. Army Tippmann marker, you do want to pay attention to the trigger. In its mechanical form, the trigger does have this slider on it. That needs to be removed when you install an e-grip kit. So we're just going to push it in like this, remove the pin that holds it in, remove the slider and the spring, and you're good to go. It's okay to install back into your marker. Before we put the marker back together, there's one last final thing we need to do on the grips. There are some grooves there originally, but they're not completely cut out. That's just so you can turn the marker on and off, and so you can see it when it's on there, right here and here. You just want to take a sharp razor and finish cutting those out completely. It's really easy. Just want to be sure that you're careful about it. You don't want to go over it. Now that everything's set up so I can put it back together and see if it works, there is one thing I want to touch on. This spring and front side here that also acts as the latch for the feed elbow. A lot of people have a lot of trouble installing it, so I'm just going to show you how to do that really quickly when it does fall out. The horseshoe style spring, you want to put it in like this so the portion of it that when it lays flat sticks up is facing the top portion of the gun there. And then you want to line up this with the pin and make sure that the other hole sits directly over the portion of the spring that stands up. You then want to push it down just a little bit and push it in, and there you go. It's good to go. You get your receiver half on there and it's going to be good. So let's get the marker put back together and I'll go from there. Just like taking it apart, you want to be very careful putting the Project Salvo back together. There's a lot of parts that are under tension, and you just want to be extra careful when you're putting it back together because these parts could just fly anywhere. So you just want to very carefully line up your parts. Make sure when the receiver halves go together, you're not going to be pinching anything, especially these new wires that you have going different places. Get it pushed together and start putting the receiver bolts in. Alright, now that we got our battery and our grip back on it's time to power this baby up and see how it works. So it's really easy to turn on. You're just going to take an Allen wrench, and in that top hole that you cut out of the grip, you're just going to put the Allen wrench in, press it down until you see a little green light flash and it stays lit. You know it's on. So then you just cock it and you pull the trigger. Fires every time with a pull of the trigger. It's really, really nice, really, really light. There's 4 different firing modes. The semi-auto that I was just using, 2 full auto modes, a 12 ball per second and 15 ball per second mode, and then there's a 3-round burst. So if you have any questions or comments, send us an email at videos@hustlepaintball.com. And remember, you can get this e-grip kit or the salvo or any other paintball need you might have at hustlepaintball.com. Thanks again for watching, guys.